Welcome everyone to the first ever remote meeting for the Goffstown Sewer Commission. This is our regularly scheduled meeting for March 10th, 2021. We were scheduled to start at 6, but we had a little problem getting organized with the electronic portion of it. The first order of business is to read the governor's order regarding the right to know law meeting checklist. As the chair of the Goffstown Sewer Commission and due to COVID-19, in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note there is no physical location to observe and listen to the meeting, which is authorized pursuant to the government's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is confirmed that we are utilizing, the Goffstown Sewer Commission is utilizing a telephone conference line for this electronic meeting. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following telephone number: 603-766-5646 and using the participant code 785645 followed by the pound sign. The town previously gave notice to the public how access to the meeting using the available telephone number with the posted agenda. If anybody has a problem with telephone access, please call 603-660-5000. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at a later time. Please note that all votes are going to be taken at this meeting done by roll call vote. We'll start the meeting with a roll call attendance, each member stating their presence and state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. So we will start with myself. I'm Tim Redmond. I am the chair of the Sewer Commission, and I am alone in the room. Rob Trapaz.
Hi, this is Rob Trapaz, Commissioner. I'm the only one in the room.
Dave Pierce.
Dave Pierce, I'm on the phone. I'm the only one in the room.
Commissioner-elect Daniel Taylor.
Daniel Taylor, I'm the only one in the room.
Daniel Taylor will be participating tonight as an elected member, but he will not have a vote as we have to wait the 7-day recount period for anyone to be sworn in. Mike Trank.
Michael Trank with Hoyle Canner and Associates, and I'm the only one in the room.
Corey White.
Corey White, Goffstown Public Works, and I'm the only one in the room.
Selectman Bowen.
Chet Bowen, Select Board Rep, and I am the only one in the room.
And we have Lynn and Danielle with us both. Lynn.
Lynn Pooler, Sewer Secretary. I'm the only one in the room.
Okay, so Danielle has left the room, Lynn?
Yes.
Okay.
And Dave Pierce, I believe, should be joining us in a minute.
Okay, well, if he does, that's great. But I did ask him to announce himself, so we're set.
I'm on the screen now, Tim.
Yes, he is.
Good, Dave. Okay. So the agenda has roll call. We have public comment. We offer a period of public comment for people to call in to state their piece. And at this point, we'll begin a 60-second period open for public comment, and we'll wait 60 seconds. Anybody seeing anything, Lynn?
Nope. We're all set. Nobody's calling in.
All right, well, as usual, we'll keep the public comment open for the duration of the meeting in case someone calls in because they had a problem, and we'll close the public hearing later in the meeting. All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes, February 10th and March 1st. We'll start with the February 10th minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Motion's been made to
Dave.
accept the,
This is
Seconded
Dave. I'll
by-
second.
motion made by Rob, seconded by Dave to accept the minutes as presented. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll call for roll call vote, starting with Rob.
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Tim votes yes. And then we have minutes of March 1st, 2021.
I'll make a
That was
motion to,
Just for clarification, those are the minutes from when the commissioners went out to the East Union Pump Station to look at the damage to the building. Okay, Rob, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the March 1st minutes as presented.
How could I find anything wrong with 4 lines of type? I accept them.
You could.
The motion has been made to accept the minutes of March 1st by Rob, seconded by Dave. We'll have a roll call vote. Rob?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And Tim votes yes. I don't see any new business on the agenda, so we will go to old business, and that is the East Union Pump Station. Rob, since you kind of spearheaded that discussion, could you please give an oversight of the discussion for everyone present?
Well, we went out to the East Union Pump Station to observe some reported damage. It seems like there's some water damage coming down the facade of the building. I took some photos, recommended that Mike Trank review the photos. Subsequent to that, I circulated the pump station report that Hoyle Tanner had prepared. Mike, what was the date of that report? Do you recall? You're muted.
2015, I don't remember the exact date.
No, I think you're correct. And in that report, there was a mention about some substandard problems with the roof. I think tears were noted in there. So it seems pretty logical that based on what Dave Pierce reported from his observation of the roof, that there's some repairs to be made. And the consensus at our last meeting, March 1st, was to have a roofing contractor take a look.
Dave, you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree that the water is pooling on the roof. It does need a competent engineer understanding why that's occurring and provide us solutions.
Tim, if I may, a couple other things that we observed while we were out there. It appears that there may be water between the 2 layers of brick in the utility room, which was previously used as a chlorine gas room. So there may be some structural investigations to do there. There's obvious cracking both inside and out in the building. Corey White had also taken me down to the pump level of the station there, and there's a wall dividing the wet well and the pump area where the dry pit pumps are. And about 4 to 6 inches up off the ceiling, there's a noticeable deterioration of the concrete that extends the length of the wall. Being that that's a wet wall, it might warrant some structural investigation by Hoyle Tanner as well.
So is the consensus at this point that we have a recommendation from Hoyle Tanner after we have them look at it, Rob, or what's your recommendation at this point?
Yeah, I'd recommend that Hoyle Tanner be authorized to have a structural engineer look at both the East Union Pump Station as well as the recent damage to the Elm Street Pump Station, and provide the commission with a recommendation on how to proceed.
Well, we already told DPW that the Elm Street pump station damage we thought was minimal and that we were going to address that as part of our overall rebuilding of that pump station. And you still want to authorize them to go down and look at it? We've sort of signed off with DPW on that for an insurance claim.
I'm happy with letting DPW handle the Elm Street situation and our future contractor put an addition on that facility.
My only thought there was that if Hoyle Tanner had their structural guy going by, they're going to need to create an allowance item in the pump station work contract for those repairs, and having the firsthand observation while they're in town just makes sense to me.
Okay, I agree with that, Rob.
I would suggest too that the alternative to that is it could be handled as a change order as part of the construction of the addition to the pump station, because it may be difficult, without opening up the walls or digging deeper into it to assess the full extent of the damage. I mean, I haven't seen it, but that could be handled, as part of the construction project pretty easily.
Yeah, all the siding stripped off. It's as bare as can be.
Yeah, okay.
There's nothing hidden.
Tim,
Yes.
I'm not familiar with, I know there's a 10 by 10 addition going on Elm Street. Is there a door being busted between the addition and the existing facility?
I have not seen the plan, so I'm going to have Mike Trank to speak to that.
No, they're being kept separate, and that's on purpose, because there's an access hatch into the wet well in the existing building, which creates a space where technically to meet code, it should be Class 1 Division 2, which means everything in there would have to be designed for that, and it's not. So all of the electrical and controls is all being moved out of the existing building into the new addition. So no, there's no doorway. We intentionally wanted to keep.
Thank you, Mike. I was only interested if there's going to be masonry work on the soon-to-be common wall, that masonry work could have also be within the scope of the broken block.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mike.
Are we making
So,
a new?
yes, I agree that.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, I agree that it would be prudent for Hoyle Tanner inspector to visually look at it and know what needs to be done.
All right, well, that's fine. Mike, you're going to have to let us know when someone's going out there, because there are two damages to the building, one that's about 10 years old and one that's new. So we need to differentiate between the two damaged portions, Mike. So if you could give us a heads up, maybe somebody could meet them out there just to show them the difference between the two.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Tim, just one question for Corey. Corey, do you think any additional protection is needed for the building in lieu of what has happened? I understand we're making the driveway bigger, but
I think we need to put some bollards in, pretty simply.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I agree with that.
So we might, Mike, if they're not on the present plan, could you please introduce some bollards onto the plan so that we do have protection from vehicles striking the building a second time after the new work is completed?
third time.
Got that, Mike? Okay, I see you nodding. Okay, good. All right. The other thing about East Union Pump Station is we all seem to concur that there's a problem with the roof going on there, that the water is not draining to the scuppers. It's also, if it's draining through the walls, there's something going on. So Mike Trank, we also would like an assessment of whether we need to consider having that roof replaced, repaired, whatever the words may be, to so that we don't have the problem persist if we make repairs to the walls.
Right.
Okay. Good. All right. Anything else on the East Union Pump Station discussion? All right, not hearing about anything. The next item on the agenda is the VACCON. I've been discussing with the Public Works Director about the emergency use portion of our VACCON, and he sent me recently an email stating that, in his opinion, he would like to work an arrangement with us where we simply pay an hourly rate for the use of the machine, plus the employee that goes with it, and we would then not share in an annual maintenance agreement with the town on it. So by working by this methodology, we would no longer be a stakeholder in the repairs and the future repairs for the VACCON. And based on his methodology of the vehicle maintenance history, capital costs, and the other factors that have gone into it, he has come up with a figure of $75 an hour for the equipment. It's an hour to the nearest hour charge, and then $40 an hour for the employees, which is a 3-hour minimum to the nearest quarter. I think that takes in their benefits and in retirement and everything else. So if the commissioners see fit, the DPW is offering us a deal to get out of the shared maintenance on that truck and simply pay for it on an emergency basis only when we use it. He himself is talking about doing contract basin cleaning this season with Belmore. So I think it would be in our best interest to continue the budget item for the Belmore maintenance to come out and clean our lines this year. And we would actually our deal with the town would become null and void for the use of the VACCON for our sewer maintenance. As stated by the director, he has had difficulty filling positions, and he doesn't even know if he could promise us the lineal footage that we normally do this season based on the fact that he's short on help and that the road plan takes up a huge amount of their men and resources. So does anybody have any comment on the $75 an hour for the use of the truck plus the rate for the man to come and work with Corey? And I'll start with either commissioner, whichever wants to speak first.
Yes, Tim, I agree that it's a good step moving forward to have DPW only as an emergency use of their VACCON, and it has a set charge. So and it's very flexible getting them to show up on an emergency basis. It's not as though we have to have a contract with a private firm.
Okay.
And then, of course, the first step is to use the commercial firm to do the routine cleaning and schedule that for whatever length of time it has to do, or several sessions during the course of the year.
Rob, did you want to speak?
Yeah, out of curiosity, what was the cost for Belmore?
I can't remember Lynn, you sent the numbers over to DPW. Do you remember what it was? I thought they were a lot more actually than 75 an hour.
Did you? Okay.
I think their rate was over 100. Their
Which
state.
is probably similar when you.
We had a quote of what, $1.07 a foot or something like that.
Mike is Dave. Rob is speaking about the emergency rate, which would be strictly on an hourly basis, not by the foot. So whatever the rate was.
Yes, the cost from Belmore was, and that's what I thought you were talking about.
Right. So
yeah, I remembered it was a state rate. I just didn't remember what the state rate was. But it almost is irrelevant because it's going to be an emergency basis. You'd expect to pay a bit of a premium for that. The only other thing was I remember we paid additional for traffic control with Belmore. So I'm assuming that on an emergency basis, we would have to provide that service.
No, emergency basis, generally Corey and DPW guys handle traffic for a night call or a day call for emergency use. The whole purpose of traffic is for extended periods of time to be sitting in the road. And Corey, we purchased the sign package for Corey, so he could make sure that if he does have an emergency call to go to with the VACCON, he could take his sign package with him. And any other safety measures that we may need, see fit, if we have to install strobe lights on the town vehicle or anything like that, I'm all about doing that. That'd be no problem for us, in my opinion. So what I'll do then, I I'll forward the email from the Public Works Director to Daniel and David, and you'll both have the numbers to look at. And I really think that this is a better deal for us. I would prefer to vote on it tonight and have an agreement with DPW. I think it's in our best interest to do this, but I certainly want to make sure that whatever the other commissioners agree to is what we do. So I'll have a roll.
Jim, I agree with the route you're going, and the rate is fair.
Okay, Rob, do you?
Belmore was 157.50 an hour.
Yeah, so he's even less with his combined person plus truck charge. So he's at 105.
Better vote on it quick before he changes his mind.
115 he's at. Well, you see, the problem is that the town cannot charge and make a profit on the town employees. They have to charge what the value of the employee is with their benefits included. So, and the truck rate was determined by vehicle maintenance history, vehicle capital cost adjusted for time, and he put the hourly rate for the laborer in, but that doesn't go into the price of the truck because that's not included. So I think we should have a motion on this to accept the DPW's emergency agreement, and that way we can inform Belmore of our terms for next season for routine maintenance. We'll get Corey to contact them and work out scheduling for them. So I'll look for a motion from one of the commissioners.
This is Dave. A motion to agree with the offer by DPW to use their VACCON on an emergency basis at the rate that the chairman read to us earlier.
That would be $75 an hour for the truck, Dave, for if you want to put it in your motion.
$75 an hour, and there was a personnel cost too.
And we've always paid that in the past regardless, so that really isn't a formal part of the motion. So
Okay.
motion's been made to accept the DPW's offer for emergency use at the truck rate of $75 an hour. We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. So any discussion? Roll call vote, Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Tim votes yes. So I will, I'll forward that email to the commissioners that I got from DPW, and then I will also invite Corey to talk with Ray Belmore about upcoming season maintenance. We know how many feet we want to do, and based on last year's results, Corey will know best about the time frame involved. And you still have the contact information for the flaggers, Corey, from Project Flagging?
I do, because I used them when we worked on some manholes about a month ago.
Okay, good. All right. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the accessibility fee. I'm going to let Mike Trank speak here to start with it. Mike and Rob have both been working on it diligently. So, Mike, could you just give us an overview of any changes that were made or recent changes to it, please?
Sure. Pretty minor stuff. There was on page 5. The one I changed today on page 5. It said that usage or the accessibility fee was to pay for availability capacity in sewer, and that should have been available capacity. So I corrected that in 2 spots. And then there was some further clarifying language added on page 11 of the report relative to the prorating of the charge to restaurants for outdoor seating.
Okay, were those the corrections that we had spoke about at the prior meeting, Commissioner Trepaz or Dave, please?
Well, I think that the corrections that Mike Trank is talking about, we have 2 documents in play. We have revision 8 and revision 9. Those 3 corrections were things that I picked up that ended up being in revision 9. Subsequent to that, or about the same time, Commissioner Pierce provided a document, which is the one I think Lynn was talking about sharing, that had some additional clarifications and comments. And I'd invite Mr. Pierce to kind of walk us through that.
Yes,
You want me to make you a presenter, Dave, so you can bring it up?
just a moment. See if I can find it on my screen before you do that.
Or I can share it on my screen, but you won't be able to.
I'll let you do the button control. Just bring up the first page of the PDF. Tim, I read the entire document today, and I had maybe 10 corrections. They were all very technical, word in, word out. I hope, and I want to be able to show them on that screen. Great, Lynn, I see that.
Okay.
And if so you're looking at page 3 now, and let's see, how do I get, I
have to do it. Do you want me to scroll down or something?
no, I have that bar right in the middle of my screen that hides the text. I don't know how to get rid of that.
You have to scroll the screen up or something, Lynn. We're just seeing current estimates is the last thing we can see.
Current estimates is the last thing you can see.
Okay, stop. Oh.
Back one, Lynn. Right there.
Right
Hold it
there.
right there.
Stay there.
Okay.
So I recommend that you delete the words or replace the words "there are 2,100 sewer connections" and simply substitute "there are approximately 2,100." I just don't want to be locked into that one number because we already know it's wrong.
Okay, well, that seems reasonable.
And then what I've highlighted in yellow, which equates to 422 gallons per day per connection, I don't see the purpose of putting that phrase in. It only sets up confusion as to why we're then leaning to go forward with a greater number, 450. Besides the fact, the average per day, 886,000. That's an average for over 5 years. Yet the 2,100 is not an average over 5 years. You're dividing apples into oranges, and that's why the number 422 is a false number.
Right, so I'd like to handle these individually as we go through them. So I concur with adding the word approximately in front of 2,100. And I also see Dave's argument with the confusion between 422 gallons a day versus our standard, which is 450. Rob?
I concur.
So is the consensus that we would add approximately before 2,100 and remove which equates to 22 gallons per day per connection? Remove that from the text? Rob, yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, okay, so that's done, Dave. Go on to your next page you want to talk about.
Down at the very bottom, the second line from the bottom, elsewhere in the document, you use the written word 1/2. And so you need to do the same logical use of numbers on that line.
That sounds reasonable, Rob?
It does. Are we making sure that Mike Trank is concurring and annotating this appropriately?
Lynn probably gave him a copy of this.
Just before the meeting, I forwarded it to everybody.
So, Mike, it's in your email.
So, Mike, what we're going to do, just so we can move forward with this document tonight, Mike, we're going to have hopefully a vote on this document tonight, and it'll be a conditional vote on these few terms being agreed to and signed, because it doesn't change the substance of the document. So if you have some other discussion on the document, we can discuss it at a future meeting, but the basic intent of tonight is to accept the document. Okay, Mike?
Bring up the next change, Lynn.
Okay.
The sound is kind of fading in and out, but I
Stop
think
there.
I get the gist of it.
I recommend deleting the first sentence, which I've highlighted in red. That, and then substitute what I wrote in green, that the commission has purchased 2.13 million gallons per day treatment capacity through a 20-year intermunicipal agreement, which was signed January 1st on 1st and 13. The sentence in red was completely outdated once the new agreement was signed in 2013.
I concur with that. Rob?
I agree.
Okay. Next one, Dave?
Technical change, table 6 needs to be referred to as table 7.
That aligns with the table that's directly below it, right?
Correct.
Okay, I agree.
I agree.
So just scroll up 2 lines, Lynn. Oh, stop. Oh, too far.
Keep
Good.
going.
That's great. Because the mathematics of adding up, let's see, when you divide the 1155, or is it multiplying?
It is multiplying.
Yeah, it's when you do the multiplication, of course, it comes out to 4,197 and some cents. And I think we just need to make it official why we didn't display a number to dollars and cents. We need to officially say that the $5,200 was calculated by rounding it to the nearest 10. And
That's fine with me.
It preserves the logic of how we got there.
I concur.
Keep scroll.
Okay.
Good. In red, I wrote the old document that the flow properties is based on the actual estimated flow. And I had a problem with the word actual and estimated. And they really don't go together well. And so the assessed flow was really derived from the DES table 1008-1, converted to treatment units and rounded to a half unit.
Rob, I'm going to ask you to speak on that directly. Do you concur with that treatment of that language?
Why wouldn't we just get rid of the word actual? Because the only rub I have with what Dave wrote is that our single family determination of flow is not consistent with the New Hampshire DES table.
I agree, Rob. I was
So-
trying to attack the word actual in a very convoluted way. I like your simple solution.
So what is your amended request, is to remove the word actual from that sentence and leave the rest of the language alone?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so the decision is to remove the word actual from that present language and eliminate the language that Dave has in green.
Don't, Lynn, in a moment. Tim,
Yes,
in several places in this document, we refer to rounding treatment units to 1/2 of a treatment unit. Is this the correct document to make that a gospel rule, or does it show up in some more legitimate forum document?
I don't have the answer. Does someone have the answer for Dave on that?
Well, I think it
I'm back
needs to
by
be.
I'm back by telephone. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what happened. My team's dropped out.
You lost your team, huh?
Yeah, I lost my team.
So I guess, Mike Trank, to summarize where we just were, in what you see, oh, you don't see on the screen. We talked about,
Tell me we're on page 10 of the document, Rob.
do you have Dave Pierce's markup in front of you, Mike Trank?
Actually, I can see the screen again.
Oh, you can see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so the highlighted section in purple, we're going to keep that and just strike the word actual.
Okay.
And so we're going to then delete the green text that David provided, and that was a unanimous agreement with the commissioners.
And then, Rob, Dave had another question about using the word round 1/2 treatment units throughout the text.
Right. So, and then my comment there is that I think you need to have it in the accessibility fee document because you're calculating flows for different applications. That also carries over to the sewer use ordinance and the billing because they're billed on the same treatment unit calculation. And it also is consistent with the billing software precision. So I don't think we can do it less than 1/2, which is why when
Rob, I have no problem with the 1/2 rounding everything to 1/2 where it's appropriate. My question was on the if this document is a recommendation to the commission as to how to move forward with the accessibility fee and how we calculate that fee. And so this is really a recommendation that whenever we do look at treatment units, they will be rounded off to 1/2. And we're deriving our opinion from this document. So is that correct?
yes, because I mean this is where we're making the assessment of the flows for a variety of different applications. So I think it's appropriate.
Okay, move on.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Rob. All right, so what's your next page we're going to, Lynn? Oops.
Can you see it?
So, yep. I think Dave's intent was to remove the one treatment unit for the dry goods example and replace it with 1/2. My
Correct.
observation here is that 1/2 a treatment unit would be 1/2 of 450, which would be 225. So I'm not comfortable with that recommendation.
A full treatment unit's 400, not 425 or 450.
Full treatment unit is 450.
Is
400.
for dollars?
$400.
Oh, $400.
Yes,
I thought we were talking
$400.
about gallons.
I did too.
Oh, okay. Then I guess I'm confused.
Rob, 1/2 of a treatment unit is rounded. We've already discussed that there has to be a rule about rounding off when you take 250 and divide that by 40, it comes out, I think, 0.52. So you round it down to 1/2.
Now, so the minimum charge, line note 1 there below the table, minimum charge 1 treatment unit equal to 450 gallons per day, except as noted. 1/2 a
Sure.
treatment unit would be 225.
And this is accepted as noted. We've noted it. But these are simply examples.
If the estimated flow from the property is 250,
Question I have is,
Go ahead, Mike Trank. Mike Trank, were you trying to speak? I guess not.
yeah, the only question I have is, isn't it's stated that the minimum charge is 1 treatment unit.
Except in a case of an accessory apartment under the zoning regulations, then we do a half a treatment unit for an in-law accessory apartment that's attached to an existing structure under the accessory, what's the words, Dave? The accessory dwelling unit, ADU. But that's a standalone arrangement that it doesn't show on our table. It's sort of an anomaly within our system.
But in the previous page we discussed, we stated that whenever we have calculated a treatment unit, we round it to the nearest 1/2.
Yeah, I don't bill for half treatment units. The only time we are billing for half treatment units is when we're doing the outside seating in the summer, because that's all manual. Otherwise, an accessory dwelling is always just still 1 treatment unit.
But that's residential.
Right.
So we're not talking residential, right? So you could have a dry goods standalone, as shown in the example, with a daycare next door, and that would add up to 600 gallons per day, right?
I don't think we don't really bill for a half a treatment unit. I've only billed for 1 treatment unit. I don't have anything that we bill for just a half a treatment unit.
I don't think these recommendations in green should be in this chart because it's creating confusion for the loan exemption that we have for the zoning allowance for accessory dwelling units. Otherwise, it's always been full treatment units for everything. So maybe this recommendation to add 0.5 and 2600 should not be in here.
I think we lost Mike Trank again. He's trying to come back right now.
I'm back in by phone. I've never had this problem with Teams, but I think I'll just stay on by phone.
So I would recommend that we not include this 0.05 and 2600 in this chart because it creates confusion. If we can't even figure it out ourselves, how are we going to explain it to a customer?
So, okay. So Tim, then don't accept my change on dry goods. But now let's go down to the bottom where I believe the outdoor seating. Now there, outdoor seating is a similar logic as an accessory dwelling unit. We already have an established customer, but they're expanding during the summer months, and therefore having an extra 1/2 unit is a correct call, even though it's less than 1.
Didn't that create a problem with the billing, Lynn?
No, it doesn't.
What we decided we were going to do is we were just going to include it in the second billing, which is for July 1st through December 31st, and I'm manually going to change it by a half a treatment unit and then change it back for the next billing.
So this was the wording that I changed in my markup to Mike Trank, and let me just pull it up and read it. And I said that the sewer accessibility fee would be assessed prior to the change of use or occupancy. The 0.5 treatment unit tabulation for seasonal outdoor seating would also apply to the sewer user charge and will be billed in the July billing cycle. And I like Commissioner Pierce's further clarification of July to December billing cycle.
Yes, because it's billed in
Do
December.
you also agree that 1/4 of a year is 3 months?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. So what are we doing with this section here? Are we accepting Dave's markups, Rob, or are we discussing them? What are we doing with them?
It's really a combination.
Actually, yeah,
Go ahead.
I think I think Rob's revised text will work fine, and I can just make any minor modifications pursuant to Dave's comment here. It's pretty close, so I think that's an easy fix.
Okay. So Lynn, would you scroll in the opposite direction from what you scrolled to get here? Go back to the top, right there.
Right
that-
here.
I
Yeah.
changed the title of Table 8 because these are, once again, these are examples of accessibility fees.
Well, I think examples are better than estimated, because once you put the word estimated in, someone's going to try to hold you to something that you said it was in your chart. Examples applies that these are not cut in stone. These are just,
That's the same logic that was used on the table for Table 2, which
Okay.
were examples of something.
the only thing I would do is I correct the spelling on the word examples. The third letter in should be an
Yep.
A.
I just saw that.
Okay.
So,
I'm
Lynn,
good.
scroll-
I'm good with changing the title for Table 8 if Rob has any conditions.
Hold on a second there. I just emailed that wording over to Lynn, so she could have that. I'm fine with changing the table title. Yep.
Okay. And we are going to eliminate the 05 and the 2600.
Yeah,
Correct.
Green. Okay, good. All right, so let's move on. So what is the final decision? Lynn, could you scroll down to the bottom again, please? So what is the final decision on that paragraph? We're just going to make sure the 4 is replaced with a 3, and we will,
And I just emailed Lynn the wording that I had previously sent to Mike Trank.
and are
And
we gonna-
actually, all the commissioners have this version.
so Dave, would you concur that we can leave Rob's wording except for the correction of the 3 months and go from there, or do you want to pursue this?
no, I wasn't trying to memorize what Rob read. He simply needs to pick up the correct dates and the 3 versus 4 and expand July to be July, December to make it clear.
Okay, if that's
Right, well,
just,
the other part of what I was trying to convey is that this document's a sewer accessibility fee, but that what we're doing here ultimately translates into sewer user fees, which is the only way that 25% works, right? Because we're billing that half treatment unit only in one cycle, so it becomes a quarter. But the fact that you're billing is not an accessibility fee, but they are tied together. And that's what my language, I believe, illustrates.
okay,
Keep scrolling, Lynn.
okay, so we concur on leaving that, make that one change for the day and the day on attachment A.
I
Tim,
don't-
this afternoon, I went through each line of attachment A with a downloaded page from DES, and I came up with the changes you're about to read. In this case, for bar and lounges, we had left off the phrase concerning employees.
Okay,
Keep scrolling, Lynn.
before you scroll, Lynn, do you agree with that, Rob?
I would simply say that if I would not change the DES regulation, I would
That's
just
what
replace the
DES
entire.
says.
I understand that, but I would just replace the entire document and include the link to it and make sure there's a date on it. So when it comes time 5 years from now to replace it, we'll know what we're replacing it with.
Thank you, Rob. I was trying to figure out how to reference the date that we wrote this attachment A by, cross-checking with live data. would it be better just to reference the link to the DES website?
You could just say the current version of ENV, 1008.3 or whatever it is. And then what I would say is below is provided for convenience. Because you're going to want to go to this document and pull it up. Now, whether you print it out separately and attach it or just have the link, either way.
Maybe that has to be in the title of this attachment, that this attachment is an example of what can be found, but the valid numbers are whatever is the current value from DES.
Well, it's a regulation, so you can certainly reference it.
So we're going to leave that in or take it out, Rob?
I don't want to start marking up a document. I would rather have the link and then have people just print the hard copy from the link.
Unfortunately, it's added on other ones. It's added on airports. It's added on the one below it for bed and breakfast. It's added on campgrounds. So
the document is 140 pages long. It's not a very simple place for John Q. Citizen to find it.
I really don't find this to be a big issue, Rob, because if this is what's stated in the DES document for bars and lounges, we're just giving them enough information to make it easier for decision making without having to go digging to find the last of the little bits and pieces, myself personally.
I agree, but since these numbers have changed since we started working on this document, I wouldn't want to set us up to have a failure in the future.
Oh, so this is not these numbers do change from time to time, Rob?
Well, when we put them in there, that was copied from whatever version it was taken from at the time.
Yeah, we just cut and pasted right from DES at the time.
And, the entire ENVWS may be 125 pages, but ENV 1008 point whatever 3 table 6 is going to be a very discrete thing.
And for example, today it was pages 61, 62, and 63.
But there's going to be a statute reference for it. And Mike Trank can figure that out. I have faith in him.
So Rob, were you suggesting that at the end of this whole section, we put a disclaimer in that says that these numbers and calculations are based on current NVI W100 regulations or something to that effect? So that as they change, we're not locked in, that we follow the new regulations?
Yeah, and it's exactly what Commissioner Pierce had written in the comment there. Appendix A, New Hampshire DES ENV WQ 1008.1, table 1008-1. And this document should be governed by the latest edition.
So is that something we have to add, or is that in the text right now? Because I can't see what you're saying.
It is on page 6 of 12. Second paragraph.
You want to go back?
Tim, he's referring to something else that I wrote earlier.
Oh, okay.
This is actually part. Wait, whoop, stop, go down. Hold on. Might have to go up a little bit, Lynn. Oh, sorry. It's right after buy-in method. There it is. Attached, Appendix A.
Right there.
Right. So all we need to do is to say Appendix A, New Hampshire DES ENV WQ 1008.03, table 1008-1, current edition shall be used.
I think current edition is the words we need to put in there, shall be used. So David,
and leave out the whole appendix, right?
Well, it is the appendix is what we were looking at in the title of that. If you want to scroll down, Lynn, to the table.
The table that we were looking at?
Yep.
Appendix A.
Okay.
We were looking at Appendix A.
Up.
Yeah, just go back it.
Right there. So I would just change this, instead of saying Goffstown uses, I would say, EMVWQ, whatever the citation is, table 1008-1, unit design flow figures, and then have an asterisk to say the latest edition shall be used, or the current edition shall be used.
That's
And if
fine.
you want to put a link there, great.
That covers us for all kinds of future changes, and we're not locked in on our chart.
Right.
Then
Of course, I didn't think
I still recommend that as of the date of the publication, you put my green changes in.
What I'm recommending is you go to where you took those green changes from and extract the entire table and paste it in as written. Copy and paste.
Let's look at the rest of my green changes, please. Lynn, scroll up.
I'm scrolling.
Right there. So it's no longer 35 per employee, it's 20. And that's what Mike used to calculate the seating in the restaurant, the outside seating. He used the number 20. So once again, the 35 needs to be replaced by the 20. Keep scrolling up, Lynn.
Because those are outdated, correct?
That's from a download today. We'll stop there. The table does not have any entry that if one verifies that a hotel room does not have 2 beds, then we're going to cut our fees in half. So it doesn't even have that entire line. That was something that I guess someone in the commission dreamed up. I don't know.
Well,
No, this was a cut and paste of the table 1008 that existed at the time. It's been changed since.
right. So
We didn't put anything in there that wasn't in the table at the time.
Okay. I
really think we can solve this whole issue is just look at Dave's green line changes and instruct Mike Trank to review the entire appendix and make sure that the most current figures are incorporated into this table and that it is really up to date, and then put the disclaimer in at the beginning as suggested that as the table changes, obviously, then the table will change.
And so, Lynn, scroll down. Might as well see my last change. Then there's no longer an entry about dry goods in a shopping center at 100 gallons per person, whatever that means, 100 gallons per person. And
So-
the word standalone is no longer associated with the word dry goods.
So this comes to our request to have Mike Trank just review the table prior to its final publication and make sure everything is current.
So just for clarity, I'm on the DES website, and it's in the administrative code, and the current is volume 41, number 6 through February 11th, 2021. So these are all recent changes by DES because the previous version had been the same since 1985 and used in 6 different states.
So they've all been locked up in Concord for the last year, so they had to do something, so they decided to change this stuff.
Right. So, but again, I would reference that and paste the table in from the new reference. I wouldn't try to revise it because suppose you make a mistake.
If you're going to put the table in, then you have to reference it as an example of the table, but the valid table would be whatever the current rules are.
I would just say current version. Version shown is dated February 11th, 2021.
Okay.
So
Those are my changes, Tim.
All right, Dave, I appreciate the changes. I just want to get a consensus on what we're doing here. Are we going to ask Mike Trank to revise this table to meet the standard, or are we going to have him cut and paste the new appendix directly into the document. Rob?
I would cut and paste directly in the document and
Dave?
reference.
Cut and paste the new document from DES and change the title.
I concur. Change the title and reference the chart that it is the most current version of the DES regulation and it's subject to change or something to that effect. And we'll let Mike Trank work those words out so that they fit the document, and we can make those minor edits at a later date. Okay, thank you, Dave.
Is the document gone from your screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Was that the completion of it?
God, I hope so.
That was the end of Dave's.
Okay, good. So, the discussion tonight is for the document, not the actual fee. We can have a subsequent discussion on whether we're going to adopt the $5,200 accessibility fee in the future, or whether we're the recommended fee, or if we're going to leave it at the current $5,000. That's not the discussion for tonight. The discussion tonight is whether we're going to accept the accessibility fee document with these minor edits to be reviewed by the commission at a later date. So if is there any more discussion on the accessibility fee as a document?
Take it away, Rob.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the document as amended to be reviewed within the next 3 days for acceptance.
Motion to accept the document with amendments. Second motion?
I second it with those amendments we've discussed earlier.
Okay, any more discussion on the document? Corey, do you have any discussion on the document? I know it's kind of late for you to be dipping in here, but you read it? You understand what our discussion's all about?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because you're going to have to do the calculations up in the upcoming future. So.
Yep.
All right. So the motion's been made. It's been seconded. We'll vote on the motion. Commissioner Trepaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Pierce,
Yes.
and I vote yes. I would like to thank Rob Trepaz for his hours and hours of correspondence with Mike Trank on this document. I'd also like to thank Mike. Even though we're paying his firm, it's a lot of work, and I think I appreciate all the hard work that went into it, because it's been a long road. We've been talking about this for some time. Okay, the next item on the agenda, Corey, is Rockland Avenue. Could you give us an update on what's going on Rockland Avenue? Inform the whole commission from start to finish on what this story is about, and obviously be as brief as you can and concise as possible.
So there's an insulation company that wants to go in on Rockland Ave. The gentleman that owns the property and the business decided to start work before they pulled any permits, came to TRC, or even sat down with you guys. I noticed that they had ran a new service from their back building to the front, and Mark Tessier was called by, I think it was one of the neighbors, that they were doing work back there, and subsequently was told to cease all his work, which they did. They came before the TRC last week, and I informed them that everything that the work that they have done all needs to come out of the ground, that there's accessibility fees, and first and foremost, they need to come before the sewer commission and get your blessing before they go any further.
My question for you, Corey, is was there any correspondence with this applicant by Mike Yurgo or yourself prior to the notice being sent over by the building department?
Yeah, the property owner had talked with Mike Yurgo prior to them doing any work over there, and Mike informed them right off the bat that there would be accessibility fees and that they would need to go to TRC and come before the board.
And did the applicant offer any comments to Mike Yurgo at that time?
I don't know.
All right.
I know they
Well-
had a discussion, and that's what Mike Yergo had told me.
All right. I know you can't speak for Mike because you weren't there, but I didn't know if Mike had told you definitely would be secondhand. So in my opinion, this applicant was informed of accessibility fees and informed of the fact that they needed to have work permitted and inspected, and yet the applicant chose to do nothing on the town side and just decide to put it all in until he got caught. So that's the basis of this project right now. So is this person going to be coming forward to the sewer commission with an application that you know of, Corey?
He should be, yes. I mean, he got overwhelming amount of information at the TRC meeting from the rest of the offices in town, and I think he's a bit overwhelmed with what he needs to do. So I think he's probably regrouping himself before he actually comes before the board. This is my guess right now.
Has he given you any information whereas you might be able to discuss accessibility fee and sewer use additional charges? Has any of that been talked about?
Not in any sort of length. I just made him aware of the fact that those changes would be made.
Okay. So
Corey.
when we get a formal request from the applicant, we'll have him come into the commission meeting, right, Corey?
That's correct.
Any other?
Corey, the improper
Go
line
ahead,
that was put
Dave.
between two buildings, is it live?
I don't know. I know from what Mark Tessier had said that when he went inside and looked around, it didn't look like it was all plumbed in yet. But that was a month and a half ago, and I don't know if anybody's been in the building since.
Okay, thank you, Corey.
Okay, so there's really no further action on this discussion until such a time as the applicant comes before the commission, but I do thank Corey for filing the report with us and giving us an update on all this. Any other comments from commissioners on this matter? I see a head shaking no, and I can't see Dave, so I'll take it as a no. The next item is the Hadley Falls sewer easement. We know about this because we discussed this at a prior commission meeting. There was discussion about the sewer easement going under the corner of the existing building. A small portion of the easement was put there, and that map is, who the hell knows how old that map is? It's old, and I asked Corey to go out and do two things: check the depth of the sewer line and check if there was a basement under the building in the area of the corner where the sewer easement cuts across the corner of the building, and like Corey to report on that to the commission.
Yeah, there's the main that runs through there's approximately 6 feet deep, and there's a full basement under that building. And I went out and found the manholes I could to see how close the main actually was to the building. And a rough estimate, it's between 4 and 7 feet off the corner where that easement kind of hits the corner of the building. But if you look at the 25-foot easement, I really don't think it's a huge ordeal that it actually cuts through the corner of that building, because there's plenty of room if we were actually going to do any upgrades or fix anything in there. There's plenty of room to work around that building and not worry about the easement actually going through that corner.
Corey,
It's also entirely, go ahead, Dave.
So in other words, if that entire line through Hadley Falls project, if it had to be replaced somewhere in the future, it would obviously be offset from the present location then.
Correct.
Thank you. And we also had a question about the technical words in the agreement that was drafted by the firm's lawyer. Have they been resolved okay, Tim?
I have not seen it, Dave. I do not know anything about those technicalities.
Yep, I sent you guys an email. See if I've got it here.
It was a hard email to read, Lynn, because it was just too many messages, one after the other.
I'm not sure I'm getting the right. Yeah, well, what she said is, hold on.
Oh, Dave, you showed up on your camera. Good. First I've seen you all night.
What she said, we had asked her some questions, and her response was she reviewed the plan. She agrees that the reference to the parking easement on the bottom of the second page should be changed to sewer easement. And then it says, if the grantor, we had a question about the word defend. She says, if they want to remove defend, that's fine, but defend, indemnify, and hold harmless is pretty standard language. You might want to run the language by the town's insurer, but I think it's fine. And then if your select board's chair prefers to be referred to that way, then the change is fine. But from a legal perspective, there is no difference. We don't need the whole board to sign, just the chairman. You can authorize the chairman to sign it and accept it. She's just answering our questions. The plan title is not exactly the same, but it's close enough that she's not worried about it. And then the 25-foot easement was obviously drawn for convenience rather than to exclude the building, which clearly should not be within the easement area. But as long as the town is okay with the easement as it is drawn, then she's fine with it also. That's everything. Those were we had sent her the questions, and those were the answers to the questions. I sent Adam's email. What's that?
Do either of you commissioners feel that with the 25-foot easement and the sewer line is presently higher than the footing under in the basement area, which means that if we ever had to work there, it would appear that we would be no difficulty undermining the building. If that building's footings were higher than the sewer main, then I'd say, yes, we need to move the sewer easement over. But since the building is the basement of the building is lower than the elevation of the sewer main, there's no risk of damaging that structure in the event that we had to work within our sewer easement. That's my opinion. I don't know what you other folks think.
Since the building's been there longer than the combined age of everyone on this meeting, I don't think we're going to be disturbing the footers.
Okay. The other thing too to remember is if that project does ever gets off the ground, it's entirely possible that that may be their connection source for all the connections for that building, because there's going to be multiple connections with all the apartments and everything. So it's entirely possible that that line may be reconstructed as part of a future plan for that site, in which they have to install service connections and other manholes to convey their sewer to the sewer pump station. So we can always address that at a later date if necessary, but I don't really see a problem with the moving the easement. I think the easement is fine. And if our attorney for the commission feels that the language is fine, I don't see a problem based on the attorney's opinions. I'll open it up for discussion.
Tim, I'm also aware that when that whole Hadley Falls development came before the planning board, I looked at the ground level after everything's been constructed. And once you get outside the immediate area of the front door of the present 3-story structure, as you go further back into the property, the ground is going to be raised up to the extent that some portions of the ground are going to be 4 feet higher than it is right now. So, and I agree with you that the sewer connections are, if they're made into that line, there's going to be a lot of digging in that whole 25-foot easement.
Okay.
What's that
Rob?
sewer made out of? What's that piping material?
I don't know. Corey, do you know what kind of materials in that line?
I might be able to look and see what that's actually made out of. I think that's clay through there, but
Well, if it's clay, they're going to be replacing all the lines to make service connections, because you can't make service connections to a clay line and maintain the integrity of the pipe.
Now you'll chase it all the way out.
They're going to go manhole to manhole and replace it with newest schedule SDR 35 is what they'll end up doing. And you know something? They're going to come in for permits, and we'd be well within our rights to require that they do that if they are going to utilize that for their service connections.
So maybe we could say something to the effect that we're okay with it, given the current service conditions. And if they change, we'll have to reevaluate.
Yes, I concur. So does the commission want to authorize me to sign it, or do you want to have further investigation on the matter?
I make a motion that we authorize the chair to sign the easement agreement presented by the owner of Hadley Falls Development.
Motion's been made to authorize the chair. Do you want to second that, Rob?
I just want to clarify that the language was suitable to our council.
Okay.
Then I'll second.
And for Daniel looking in, Hadley Falls Development is otherwise known as the old factory site.
Yep.
Behind where the old Cumberland Farms used to be. Roll call, Tim.
Rob, I'm still waiting for Rob to finish the second. He was reviewing the attorney's opinions.
No, I was just saying that you're authorized to sign it, providing the language is consistent with our attorney's approval.
Okay, I misunderstood. Okay, roll call vote. Dave Pierce?
I vote yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Okay, so Hadley Falls, they've been emailing me and they want to know if they're all set with this. Can I email him back tomorrow and say that we don't have any changes for him?
And then who has the actual document for the chairman to sign? Do you have a copy of that, Lynn? We're going to have something to sign.
I don't have it.
Well, we'll have to get a copy of it somewhere. You don't have to look for it now.
Okay.
So if they want, we've been authorized to sign it as long as they provide it, the document, and it falls and it's in line with what they requested.
Okay.
Are you looking for the sewer easement that's going to be recorded?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a copy of that.
Looks good.
So
Corey. Thank you. I read it all.
That over to Lynn. Can you get that over to Lynn, please, Corey?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is training. This is for our prior engineering tech, Mike Yurgo, to assist with some training with Corey in the interim until Corey gets on his feet with all the jobs he has to do. We had an original document from Castle Environmental, which covered a lot of environmental services and engineering things, and the language was inappropriate for the training portion of this. And what I did was Rob and I worked on a revised services to be rendered document. I sent it off to Mike Yurgo. He responded with an email that I forwarded to you guys that said he reviewed the revised training proposal and like to proceed with the Goffstown Sewer Commission approval. So the document simply states that he is going to assist in preparation of sewer reports and sewer technician tasks that address client and GSC staff needs, provide technical assistance as needed with GSC staff, assist in developing, implementing wastewater programs with GSC staff, and his fee and his hourly rates are fee schedule. Sewer technician training is $75 an hour, and his mileage at the IRS 2021 reimbursement rate is 56 cents. The schedule is such that training will be on an as-needed basis and when the instructor is available. Invoicing will be done on a bi-monthly basis, payable to Castle Environment LLC. I assume that we will be requesting a certificate of insurance from him as a training contractor, which I discussed with him, and he is presently working on getting his certificate produced and available for the commission. So if we have any discussion on the training document, I'd like to proceed with that now. Either one, open it up for discussion.
Only thing I have is I was talking to the business manager today, and she asked that I let you know that when he submits his invoices, he should make sure he tracks his hours and puts the date, the hours that he worked, and the description of what he did for that time period with the invoice.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you his contact information. I'm going to let you directly consult with him because you're going to be handling the billing, Lynn.
Okay.
So I will make sure you have phone and email contact information for him, and then you can inform him of all the necessary requirements.
Sounds good.
So do I have a motion to accept the service contract for Castle Environmental? Dave, you talked about having a time period on this. Do we want to put a 3-month time period or something to that effect that we could renew at a later date? How do you want to proceed?
What is the furthest out event that we may need the training consultation to be provided? Is it 6 months from now, 8 months, 9 months?
I would request Corey to answer that question if he possibly could.
That's a tough question to answer because the reason why is because I have stuff come in the door that I've never seen and that I don't know anything about. And I can't foretell an exact date that I'm going to see stuff that I'm going to need to ask him about. So, I mean, if you were to put like a 6-month time period on it, I would think most anything coming into digging season, it would probably be helpful for me for the next 6 months to be able to reference him if I need something.
You can also renew it, Dave, at any time or extend it, you know what I'm saying?
Let's try this, Mr. Chairman. A motion to accept this offer for training from Castle Environment LLC at the terms that were documented in the email sent on 8 March, with the stipulation that the agent who will be requesting the training is Corey Wicky, and that prior to his asking for the training or calling for the training to be coordinated, that he coordinate with one of the commissioners.
That's fine. So there's a motion on by Dave. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
A motion second. Any more discussion on the matter? A roll call vote. Dave Pierce?
I vote yes.
Rob Trepaz?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Tim. So for Daniel's knowledge, what we had this year, Daniel, is we had 2 25+ year each employees resign or retire, I guess, within 1 calendar year. Mike Walton left his position, and Corey White was selected from the DPW staff to replace Mike Walton as the sewer foreman. Then Mike Yurgo, as our engineering tech, announced almost immediately that he was retiring. And what we did was we budgeted some money for consulting for the training period. However, the town's finance department came forth with documentation required to be an actual trainer, a consultant, which had to do with, there was 7 points they had to meet. And rather than fight with that for now, we've opted to work in a training capacity with our former employee, Mike Yurgo. And it meets the standards set forth by finance and the town administrator, and it keeps us moving rather than having us stalled in our tracks with Corey, who has, how long now, Corey? How long you been at the job?
13 months.
13 months experience with a system that we had a combined 50 years between 2 prior employees that just are gone now, and unavailable. So that's kind of what this discussion is all about and why we are where we are.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So Corey,
All
do
right.
you understand that you're the agent representing the commission to engage this contractor? You're going to be calling him and saying, Mike, I need 2 hours of your assistance on such a project to become better, acquainted with all the requirements. And then you'll document that time and for Lynn.
Yep.
Would you have any problem if a commissioner happened to visit you during your training and just shadow what was occurring?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
You might want to ask, I go to him. He doesn't come here, so.
Well, let's discuss that. What do you mean you're going to go to his facility?
When I need something, I end up just going to his house with whatever I need him to look at or questions I have, or call him on the phone if I have a question. He doesn't come here to the office.
Okay, thank you. So it's the technical review of certain documents.
Yeah.
But you also made reference to complicated reports that have to be filed with some governmental authority.
Yes. You're talking like the CMOM report.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Do you have access to all the previous reports?
Probably, if I dig somewhere, I could probably find them.
I suggest you better find them. Yes.
DES would have
They're
copies
public
for you available, or
documents.
if you wanted a copy of last year's CMOM report, DES could give you a copy of it if you requested it.
Yeah, I've already started working on portions of the CMOM report.
Okay. All right. It's not on our agenda, but I would like to see Mike Trank. Are you still on the line with us?
Yes, I am.
Mike, we sent you over the marked up copy for this year's sewer reconstruction. Do you have any kind of a progress report on how your staff or yourself is getting along with that, and where we are with that being prepared? And did you receive the specifications for last year's project, so you have them as a template to produce this year's specs?
Yes, I have the drawings and I have the specs.
Good.
And I've been working on a proposal to give to you for what it would take for us to do that for you.
If you may remember, we wanted to try to put this out to bid around the 1st of April. So is that a deadline you think you'll be able to meet?
Yeah, I think we can get close to that.
Good, because I just don't want to lose our spot in the season with the contractors.
Right, no, I get that.
And then we should almost begin next year's projects midsummer this year, so you'll have a lot more time to breathe and get next year's projects on the board, so we aren't up against this deadline, which was nobody's fault, but it's what we have this year, and we're trying to work through it.
Right.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, Tim, I just have a comment on that. Sewer design work is that it would also be a good opportunity for Corey to better understand some of the engineering aspects of the work in terms of, the slopes and the calculations and the layouts. And it might be good for Mike Trank to work regular meetings with Corey into that design effort to further provide a training, if you will.
I'm good with that, and I appreciate that comment. We will allow Mike and Corey to correspond as they can, and they can set things up that works at both their conveniences. I know COVID is an issue. I don't know if Mike is actually working in his office at this point, or whether he would even allow Corey into his house to work with him, or what the situation is. But I'm going to without any further discussion on this, I'm going to let Mike and Corey contact each other, and they can work out the particulars of how we would move forward with your suggestion, which I agree with and wholeheartedly support. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah,
Does
as long
anybody
as
have
Mike
any?
Trank finds his team- Mike
Does
Trank
anybody
finds his
have any,
team, he'll be able to share.
Anybody have any other items for the agenda that were not, for discussion that were not on the agenda this evening?
I
Yes,
do,
I-
actually.
Corey
Who does?
first.
I do, yeah.
Corey.
Go ahead.
So I've been talking, I got a phone call from Joe Boschman, and he has a piece of property on Pleasant Street.
Corey, I'm
And,
getting seasick watching you bounce in your chair.
sorry, it's a bad habit. He bought the field on the left-hand side just before where West Union comes out. There's two houses that kind of sit way out in the back. He kind of wants to put another condo complex in there. And we've been talking about how he wants to tie into sewer somehow. Per our sewer use ordinance, it states that you have to come out the front of your property on
Yep.
your frontage. Where this lies, to leave his frontage and come all the way down, you'd have to come all the way down to Pleasant Street and tie into the 15-inch main on Mountain Road. He was asking the question about, could he come out the back with an easement? And kind of, I don't know if the commission has ever run into this before with a project that's been so far away from tying in. So he kind of is looking at options to come out the back of his property through Placid Woods to tie into Mountain Road. And I
Well,
said,
he's gonna have to come up with some engineering options for the commission to look at. We're not gonna design it for him and do it for him. If he wants to proposal in front of the commission, he needs to show us some designs and some figures and how it might work. We recently denied an applicant on Church Street to come out of the back of his building to tie into the sewer. So we already have a precedent set in our own, that's we back up with our own regulations.
and that's pretty much what I told him, that most likely you're going to need to come out of your frontage because that's what the rules state. But I said I would mention it and at tonight's meeting, because it's kind of last minute, just to see the feeling on you guys about like an easement out the back.
We presently have a not this commission, but a prior commission approved the Bog Woods condominium project, Bog Road condominium project, to have a pump line that goes out to Mountain Road, but they paid for the improvements on Mountain Road to bring the sewer up and make it accessible for a pump line. So we'd have to consider all our past decisions and evaluate a request. But like I said, he has to come up with a valid, either a design or some engineering information and some calculated flows, and decide if the line can even handle as much volume as they're talking about putting into the line. So it's a discussion for another day. We appreciate you bringing it up, but it's a little premature. Rob or Dave, would you like to chime in?
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. Corey, what's the parcel number?
It's actually map 4 lot 87A.
Thank you.
And what road is that off of, Dave? West Union Street?
It's Pleasant Street. It actually abuts the Bog Road complex in the back.
It abuts Bog Road?
No, the condos that are going to go in off of Bog Road, he abuts them. They're abutters in the back.
Oh. Well, that's going to be a big planning board deal if he wants to do that. He does have to come to us first and show what he wants to do for our recommendation. And yes, so he needs to do his homework and come before the sewer commission.
Okay.
And who else had matters that weren't on the agenda besides Corey?
Yes. Rob, what is the status of a structure to replace the pump station on the other side of the river?
We need Hoyle Tanner to do a structural evaluation of the existing slab, assuming you're talking about Riverside?
Yes.
Yes. And find out if that slab is suitable for the precast concrete building.
So haven't we already authorized that?
I believe we have. I think we authorized him to prepare a proposal. I don't know that we ever saw a proposal on the evaluation.
Well, thank you for your work on that project and your suggestions about a precast concrete structure. And we'll probably dedicate it in your honor.
Rob, could you please forward any of your information to Lynn on that project so she'll have copies of that after you step down as commissioner, please?
Thought I had done that, but I will certainly make sure of that.
I know you're not going to disappear off the face of the earth, so we can get stuff from you at a later date if we've forgotten anything. So there's two things that I have on the that are not on the agenda. The first one is to welcome Daniel Taylor to our commission as the newest commissioner. And if you wouldn't mind, Daniel, I know I don't want to turn this into an interview, but if you wouldn't mind just telling us about your qualifications and what you think you're going to be able to contribute to us, please.
Yep. I'm a graduate of the UMaine Civil Engineering program. I used to work for a precast concrete company, and I worked with lots of municipalities in that role as a design engineer. I also had a wastewater treatment plant operator license for a short period of time, although never worked in treatment plant. And that's about it. Currently, I'm a stay-at-home dad, full-time caregiver with a small unrelated online business, and I wanted to serve my community, had some time, and look forward to it.
Well, thank you, Daniel. We'll lean on you for the precast angle here on this. We have a fiberglass building that houses a pump station on Riverview Park on the Manchester side of the river that's in failure. And what we're looking at is a precast concrete structure to physically remove the fiberglass structure and replace it with a precast structure, and then all the interior upfit after the fact would be part of a contract. But it's good that you have the precast experience, so you can help us with selection and the process of getting that building taken care of.
Sounds
Great.
good. Definitely a fan.
You will be working with the IT department. We have Goffstown Sewer email accounts on the town email server, so you will get an email account. So when we correspond with each other, it is in an appropriate fashion. By rules, if all three of us meet somewhere, it has to be officially recorded as a meeting and noticed as such. Since we're a small commission, if the three of us were to end up at the hardware store at the in the nut and bolt aisle, it'd probably be considered a meeting. So we have to be careful with that kind of stuff. All right. Any other business before the commission tonight? Because I would like to thank Rob Trepass for his service for the last, how many years? 9 years, Rob, were you a commissioner, or 6?
6.
I don't remember, because I was appointed for one, so 7? I don't know.
7 years. Well, I thank you for your commission service. You've been a great commissioner. Your technical knowledge has been indispensable, and I appreciate everything you've done for us, and I want to thank you. You've been a good friend and a good commissioner.
Well, thank you very much.
There's one other thing here. Corey has an application for a sewer connection permit for an approved subdivision on Hague Street, and I think we're supposed to sign this and get this back to them so they can make their DES applications. It is an approved subdivision of a piece of property. It's a single line extension of the main so that they can tie a new building onto it. I think that we should sign it and send it in so that they can begin their permitting process.
I can do that tomorrow at the town hall.
I have it actually on my desk here. I brought it from the wastewater plant. It was left at the wastewater pump station. I brought it over here tonight so I wouldn't forget to do something with it. So if it requires a single signature and a title, so if it's all right with everyone, I'll sign it as the chair and I'll turn it in to Corey, and Corey will get it to the applicant who gave it to him. Okay.
You have
So-
our
Any other
permission,
business?
Chair.
I
Thank
am
you.
out, I have a vacation day tomorrow, so if anyone needs me, I won't be back till Friday.
That sounds good. You probably need one.
Always.
All right. Any other business tonight? When's our next scheduled meeting, Lynn? Do you know what it is? Has it been,
It should be, hold on, it should be April 13th at 6 o'clock.
so Daniel, we normally meet the second Tuesdays of the month, but we didn't meet yesterday because of the election. So that's our normal schedule, it's the second Tuesday of the month. This is the first time we've had a Zoom meeting. I hope it's the last. I hope the selectmen will let us go back to meetings because it's much better to meet in person, in my opinion. We were doing a good job. Nobody got sick, but the select board made a decision that it was not appropriate, so we are following their requirements.
Lynn, the sewer commission page on the town's website, I believe it says we meet every third Tuesday, so that might need to be updated.
All right, I'll check with them and make sure they change that. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan.
So Selectman Bowen, you've been very quiet as usual. Do you have anything you want to add tonight before we officially close this?
Yep, the only thing I'd like to add was Daniel, thank you for coming aboard, and Robert, thanks so much for everything that you've done. I've learned quite a bit about sewer over the past couple of years, and I've learned the language a little bit. So thank you for all your knowledge and all your work. And you, as Tim said, you're not falling off the face of the earth, but you'll still be missed.
Well, thank you very much.
And Selectman Bowen, while I have you, we will address the use of the waterfront on our property, on the town property that we have control over at the East Union Pump Station, and we'll make some concrete recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for consideration.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else among the faces on the screen tonight? Are we good to go?
Good.
Sounds like we're good to go. I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made to adjourn. It's been seconded. Roll call vote. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
And Tim votes yes. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight, and we'll see you when we see you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Oh, I forgot. We didn't